Jodi here. Welcome to our Arts and Crafts Day. Since Easter is coming up this weekend, I thought we would do an Easter craft, which is a lot of fun, and we're going to tie-dye some eggs. So just before we get started, we need to talk about our habit and quality. So our habit and quality for this week is decide and plan and responsibility. So with our habit, decide and plan, it's always great to have goals that you're working towards. It doesn't necessarily, although they're great, it doesn't need to be a giant goal like I want to be a lawyer when I grow up. It can be a smaller goal that is more achievable during the day. So part of my goal for this upcoming weekend is to make sure that we have a festive Easter, especially if we can't go out outside and enjoy the spring or anything like that. So part of making these eggs today will help me achieve my goal of celebrating Easter. So our quality for the week is responsibility, which is really about taking ownership of your attitudes, actions, and behavior. So for this activity, we really need to make sure that we're thinking about each step that we're taking and making sure that we are considering the consequences of our actions, because we can obviously have good consequences and come out with a great egg, or there can be some disappointing consequences if we don't follow the steps carefully. So to get started and to be prepared before we start, there is a fair number of things we got to do. For starters, I would change into some clothes that aren't your favorite, because we are using food coloring and it might drip onto your clothes and we'd hate for you to wreck your favorite shirt. So I'm in my work shirt that always gets messes on it, so I'm good to go. And I've also, because I don't have a plastic tablecloth, I'm using a plastic bag here to help protect the table that I'm working under. But for the actual craft, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need some hard-boiled eggs, a pair of scissors, a glass bowl for when we're done, some form of elastic or zip tie for tying the egg up at the end, a piece of paper towel, whatever food coloring you want, and a little spray bottle with some water in it. Alright, so to get started, we are going to place our hard-boiled egg. I already hard-boiled mine earlier in the day so that I was prepared, so they also had a long time to cool in the fridge before we did this. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put it on our paper towel, and we just need to measure out, because we don't need to waste the paper towel, how much we need to cover the egg, and to just trim the paper towel so we can use it for another egg. So with that, we're going to stand the egg up nice and tall, and we're just going to use our hands to wrap the paper towel around the egg. So we want it to be super tight. We want to twist it around, so we want to make sure we have as much of the paper towel touching the actual hard egg, because that's how we're going to transfer the tie-dye onto it. So now that I've made sure that my whole egg is as close as possible to the paper towel and I've twisted the top, I'm going to use one of my zip ties here, or twist ties, to wrap it up and make sure that that paper towel stays in place. All right, so now that we've got that, it's ready to go. So the next part is going to be where the messy starts. The instructions do say that if you have plastic gloves or like rubber gloves that you wash the dishes in, you can wear them to just protect your hands from the food coloring. I don't have any. I'm also okay with my hands getting food coloring on them because I know it'll wash off. But it's a preference. Maybe ask your parents what they would prefer you to do. And we're going to get started with the food coloring. So this part we really need to think about because we need to plan where we want the colors to go. Because we're going to put drops of the food coloring onto the egg. And if you think about tie-dye, I know some of you guys have tie-dye shirts. The color placement on it really dictates the pattern. So you want to think about what you want your egg to look like at the end, and then drop some of the food coloring onto the egg. So my favorite color is blue, so I'm probably going to use a lot of blue, and it just took one little drop there. And so to start off, the egg should look more like it's polka dotted than tie-dyed. So I think that's almost enough blue for me. And then I'm gonna use some of my red to add some red in. So I think that's enough red because I'm running out of room, and I'm gonna put a little bit of green. Some of it is already starting to merge together, and that's okay. I think the important part is to remember to put some near the top, because that will be the hardest part for the dye to reach to. So now that I've got my polka dots of my different colors, this is where it kind of gets messy, because I am going to take my water bottle here, and I'm going to gently spray the food coloring all over so that the whole thing becomes wet. And so once that happens, oh, see, you can see it's dripping. That's why I need that plastic bag. So once the whole egg is wet and you're sure that the paper towel is touching the egg the best as possible, this is when you're going to put it in a glass container. So I've got my little glass lunch bottle here to dry overnight. So I do have 3 more eggs, so I'm going to do them, and then we're going to put them away for 24 hours. So our 3 eggs are done. They're in their glass bowl, and it looks really neat. I'm so excited to see how the colors all dry on, because that's what I think I find the most fun about one of these crafts, is that you might have a vision, but you don't know exactly how it will turn out, and that's what's most exciting. I do want to point out my hands. This is what I was talking about when it comes to maybe wearing some gloves. Food coloring is obviously safe to eat, so I'm not too upset by my hands, but definitely the first thing I'm going to do now to make sure that I'm responsible for myself and everything and respecting everything around me is I'm going to go wash my hands and try to get at least some of it off so I don't have to fear touching anything or wrecking anything in the house. I know we've heard wash your hands a lot, but definitely in this case as well, it's very important to make sure that we're taking care of everything. So the next step for these eggs is going to be doing exactly what they're doing. We're going to let them dry, and tomorrow I will be back here, which thankfully for you is just going to be the next clip, and we're going to unveil our eggs and just kind of really think about our habit and quality and how it applies to our Easter eggs and see how successful we are in our goal. So I will see you soon. Hey everyone, it's now the next day. It's been about 24 hours and I'm really excited to show you what I've noticed about our eggs. When I checked on them later last night, they all had these, I got excited because there's all these beautiful colors in them, and it was more than the 3 colors that I had left. What's interesting to me and what has gotten me so curious is now some of them are drying and all of the ink is completely gone. So I'm really excited to pull these apart so we can see what they look like, and then we're gonna bring it back to our HQ as we always do. All right, so let's get this first one open. It's one of the ones that actually ended up having the most white. I'm about to warn you, I have an orange cat, and here he is, probably in the shot, because he likes to have attention. Hi, Hubert. Isn't he sweet? He's just also curious about the eggs. So this one actually has turned out really, really nice, and it does look like tie-dye. So this is one of the ones that had the most white on it. Thank you, Hubert. All right, so we did have to ask Hubert to leave because he was getting a little too helpful and was taking a little bit too much of the attention of the camera. So we did have this beautiful egg that's turned out. And this one had a lot of white on the paper towel by the time we were done. Interesting thing is you can't really see any of the green spots I had on it, but there's some nice purples and blues and reds, which means that they all mix together. This one is the most colorful still. Huh. It too is quite faint, and the colors have mostly transferred over to the egg. There is more green on it, definitely. And this one is a big mixture in between having a pale side that's where everything's disappeared and then having a really dark part. So we'll see what the difference is with this one. Right, the twist tie is on really tight. So this one I would say is the most colorful. Look at this. You've got some purples in there from all the reds and the blues and the greens all mixing together. It's a lot more solid in color. You can tell which side had the color on it and the side that's turned white, but it's left a beautiful pattern, and the whole egg is completely covered. It kind of looks, well, they all kind of look like peacocks because of the colors that I used, which is pretty interesting to see. So I'm quite happy with these, which is great. I didn't know what they were going to turn out like, and as I watched the paper towels dry, I definitely was getting more excited to see what would come from them. The paper towels themselves are kind of neat tie-dye colors. I don't know if you'd want to use them for a different craft. They smell a little bit like eggs, as pretty as they are, so they might just need to be admired and then put in the bin. But those are pretty too. All right, so now that our eggs are dyed, we're just gonna wrap up with our HQs right now. So our HQs for the week are decide and plan and responsibility. I think that we did show great responsibility with keeping everything tidy and making sure we were being mindful. You can see, well, I was gonna say you could see that I got all the ink off my hands, but it looks like some from the eggs has rubbed off, so my hands did get cleaner as I continue to wash them to get the food dye off. For decide and plan, I think this kind of check marks one of my boxes of how I'm going to prepare for Easter. I know in April there's a lot of different holidays coming up that are probably going to feel a lot different this year because they're not going to be a picture of what we're used to them being, whether it be Easter or Passover or Ramadan. They're all going to be looking a little bit different, and they're all definitely things that we usually plan and prep for and make sure that we have and complete our vision of what that means to us. So I think really when it comes to decide and plan, there are definitely still parts of each holiday that we would be able to complete. And when it comes to responsibility, it's just really choosing our attitudes, actions, and behavior about it. It's fair to be disappointed if we can't spend it with family members like we like to, or maybe some of our favorite traditions can't be done because we do have to stay home. But I think it's also fair to enjoy the parts that we can. So I had a lot of fun decorating my eggs for Easter. So that is good, and I can at least say that I still got to enjoy that part. And it is going to be hard, but I'll continue to choose my attitude about it and enjoy the parts that I can do. So I hope you've enjoyed decorating Easter eggs with me. I hope you enjoy the long weekend, and we'll see you soon.